for this new year. I'm rebranding it as a podcast. I mean, we have been doing lots of videos and lots of content creation and lots of conferences, of course, for the
Right.
past 25 years. So I want you to tell me about your organization.
Okay. I have two organizations. I have one that to me, it's a little bit of a silly name. It's Rue Global Impact. And I only say that because you're never supposed to name a company after yourself, but it was just a placeholder. But yeah, you know how that goes. Be careful of those placeholders. But Rue Global Impact is a for-profit social enterprise, and we are focused on really inclusion in the broadest sense of the terms and in a global perspective. And I work with a lot of large corporations and stuff. And we really consider it more of a think tank because it's a group where we come together and we're really trying to solve some of the largest problems. And so it's my for-profit enterprise. But my real focus is pretty much on Billion Strong, billion-strong.org, which I created in 2021. And it was, creating a identity and belonging organization during the pandemic was an interesting thing to do. But I remember at the time, I've worked so much with large corporations and leaders all over the world. And I remember this one effort that was being held. It was called it is still called the Valuable 500. And it was an attempt to get 500 CEOs from major corporations all over the world to come together with the World Economic Forum to really embrace that all humans should be included. Let's include all humans in employment and things like that. So, yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity. But I remember thinking as they were executing on it, and I'm not sure how y'all can be successful if the disability community doesn't step up and really hold ourselves accountable. And because what I see over and over again is that many disability organizations are not including the disability community, which is such a silly thing to say, except it's true. We have many disability organizations, and often the leadership does not have a person with a disability at the helm. And I've talked about that a lot, and I've had people say on social media, "What are you saying? Are you saying that you should only have a Down syndrome CEO?" And I said, well, first of all, I want to say this. I would assume whoever you hire is qualified. Okay, let's just make that a level playing field. They have to be qualified to do the job. And I'm not saying somebody with Down syndrome could be qualified to be your CEO. I would hope that you're really looking at the candidates, but at the same time, we are across disabilities. So you don't have to always have a leader that themselves have, Down syndrome, but
No,
it is certainly thoughtful when you have leaders that are in the community. So that's what Billion Strong is focused on. We've recently gone a little higher. We're at 134 countries. Probably with all the people we probably are with all the organizations getting close to, we are a billion strong. But the reality, we are stronger together, and we all know that. But often the community, they're really bad about stepping all over each other. And not only the community of disabilities as a whole, but then you start segmenting it because we do have segments. We have IDD, we have autism, we have Down syndrome, we have blind, deaf. We could go on, and it's very easy to segment, but it is also very confusing for corporate brands because no matter what they do for our community, it's never enough. And they picked the wrong organization as far as everybody else is concerned. So there's a lot of jealousy and infighting. And then on top of it, the president of the United States go after DEI and woke, which certainly
oh,
did not
yeah.
help our community. And I'm not into politics or anything, but the reality is it's very confusing for people with disabilities right now.
Oh, yes. I know. I can relate so much. I actually started my first organization, called the Keen Education Foundation, and it
Yeah,
was like drink. You remember that?
I
Yeah,
do.
that's
I do.
that's even before Autism Today, and that it's like drinking the ocean. That was
Right.
like right when the internet came out. It's like my dad said, "Oh, you can actually talk to somebody on the other side of the world."
I
And when I
know.
launched it, it's like everybody came out of the woodwork and said, "Help me, help me, help me! I need help." So, but I transitioned to autism because I thought that was more doable.
I
And
know. I know.
also,
Right. Right.
exactly. So, I mean, we're on the same page, always have been. and I love what you're doing. And so, looking at the big picture, where does the disability movement need to go next?
I actually was speaking on a webinar yesterday for Ukraine, the Ukraine recovery. And I said something to them that that I'm hoping for. And what I'm hoping for, I'm very engaged with AI. I have a lot of conversations with artificial intelligence, and I, like everybody else, is like I'm worried about the bad stuff with AI, but I'm actually very excited about the potential with AI as well. And so I am looking forward to a day when I don't have to tell you I have a disability. I don't have to. Now, I can tell you that I do have a disability. I'm neurodiverse, and but I did not get diagnosed until my mid 50s. And some of my smart aleck friends were like, "Ooh, I can't believe you didn't know." We all knew. But at the time, and when I was in school, they definitely weren't thinking about girls and neurodiversity. It was only the boys that had neurodiversity. And so, but I was always, had a hard time sitting in class, and I was always one more person. Anyway, I was a bit disruptive and curious. I was just very curious, but that was considered disruptive in a classroom. But so I was diagnosed later with ADHD and dyslexia, which really makes sense to my brain because I just always thought I was very challenged in that I just cannot tell my left from my right, for example. I really can't. And I try. I was in the marching band. I've tried all kind of things, but I always have to pause and look down if I was wearing my wedding ring, anyway, it's not as natural for me as a lot of other people. And it's just a silly little point, but I remember I really struggled with it. And my partner still makes fun of me about it, but I just accept it because there's so many other things that I can do really well. But I think it's fascinating with how we're doing all the neurodiversity thing. But I look forward to a time when we didn't have to say I have a disability because you didn't exclude me. So
Right.
the only reason why I have to tell you in a lot of circumstances, why do I have to tell you I have a disability? I have to tell you I have a disability often, very often, because you've excluded me. You've excluded me from digital. You've excluded me from your store. You've excluded me from education, from transportation, from housing. I mean, people with disabilities are excluded in ways that it's just chilling all over the world. And it unfortunately is much worse because of what the United States is doing right now. But at the same time, I didn't vote for that. But, we're a democracy and others did. And now our job is to figure out the way forward. How do we pick up the pieces and figure out what is worth saving? Because babies are being thrown out with the bathwater. Where are the babies? So, but I'm looking forward to that. And I believe that it could happen because right now, society, we know for sure how to make digital accessible.
Mhm.
Everything we know how to make it fully accessible. And the built barriers can all be removed. We technically know how to do it all. We didn't in the past. We do now. But
All
I'm sorry,
needs, right.
society just does not seem to be having the will to do it. And I think it's time to be very focused on doing it.
Well, I share your passion and focus too. I'm left-handed, so I mean that was one of my things. I could always read upside down, backwards. I don't know how my brain works. It's very
It's
sometimes,
good for our
but
brains to be
yeah.
working differently.
And yeah, Temple
Uh,
Grandin told me that I'm definitely on the spectrum, but I haven't gotten diagnosed, and I'm not going to because what's the point? I am who I am, and I want everybody to be who they are. So that's what we do: is we focus on the gifts, strengths, and talents of people with autism. Help them shine, help them sparkle as much as we can. So, and of course, they have to help themselves too. And of course, it's always about getting the right skill set for the right job and right placement. But we have people that have autism that are on our board. Stephen Shore actually goes around, flies around the planet, and he's on both of our boards. And he's a guy, really, really lots of fun. And his autistics, it's great. It's his gift. It's his superpower. You built this incredible global footprint with Billion Strong. And what's been your biggest takeaway from listening to the community across so many different cultures?
I would say I am living in the United States, so I am an American, and the conversations have changed over the last few years. The amount of people that were really impacted by some of the budget and funding cuts the United States did is pretty chilling. And I know often that I'm talking to my fellow Americans, and they're like, "Oh, come on," and it is really, really frightening, and it is, but continue to remind them that outside our borders, it's even worse, especially in certain countries. And so I think, it was interesting what even you were saying just then, that people with autism have to also speak up for themselves. But, we have learned so much from people with autism in our society, especially over the last few years. Some of the stuff that we're hearing with the telepathy tapes, for example. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
oh, I'm fascinated with that. And, because can people that have autism that are non-communicative, I'm sorry for butchering that word, communicative. But the good news is I never bought that just because a person cannot communicate with you in the same way, that they don't have something to say. Yeah, and so, but also we've learned a lot from people with autism that are coming out and really speaking about it in different ways now, speaking about it with a lot of pride. And I think that we went through a period of time, and I know this is still happening, but we went through a period of time where there was a lot of, if I said it wrong, people were attacking each other. People were really being mean to each other. And I saw it happening a lot in the autism community. And people got afraid to say anything. But I don't know if I'm being hopeful, but that seems to have shifted some. It seems like people are being a little bit allowing people to make mistakes and ask questions.
Mhm.
And so that part I've been fascinated to watch with the autism community. I have a daughter with Down syndrome and autism. And as she ages, it's interesting watching her navigate her life. I just think we have so much to learn from people that have autism. And it feels like, and maybe it's just where I'm looking, but it feels like people are starting to shift and say, oh, isn't that interesting? Because, we all talk about, for example, just using telepathy. Everybody wants to use telepathy, and I want to be able to move stuff, right? But wow, what if parts of our society already can do that? With some of the
Mhm.
stuff they're finding with the telepathy tapes, and other very interesting things. I follow a lot of leaders with autism. I actually have a woman that's working with me right now that has autism, and she's a doctor. I love the way her brain works. I love listening to her talk, and I love that she's so open about her autism, and she's breaking down so many stereotypes and breaking down so many barriers by speaking up. And she's also, sometimes people, they like to do it, you're either brilliant or you don't know, there's no spectrum, which of course that's not true. There is a spectrum for all human beings. So I'm actually very hopeful, and I'm really glad that you're doing the autism leaders and the Autism Today leaders, because there is a lot to celebrate. And yes, there's a lot broken, but we have a better chance of fixing it if we all come together and help each other.
That's so true. Yeah, I remember when it went from a person with autism. At first you couldn't say the word autism because
Right,
people,
right, right.
oh no, put their fingers in their ears. And then it went to it's okay to say I'm autistic. It just went shifted all the way over there. When we did the chicken soup, we
Oh, yeah.
had 5,000 stories submitted. Yeah, and it was the most stories that they had ever received. And Jack and Mark, yeah, I'm telling the story backwards, see, because
Yeah, but it's a
but
cool story.
Jack
I forgot
had
about that story.
yes. So, they didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to do the autism one, the book on autism, Chicken Soup
Okay.
Statistics. So they, at that point in time, they wanted to have chicken soup for the handicapped. And I said, no. So I reached out to our audience and I asked the audience, like, I got so many responses. Don't say this, don't say that, don't say that. I mean, it was insane. So they picked a title which was sort of palatable. Chicken soup for for children with special needs. It's quite interesting. Yeah.
We
So,
have
and in different
shifted.
cultures, I mean, it's much more open-minded and it's much more acceptable. So that's good. That's what you call a movement.
That's
Moving
right.
a
Thank you.
mountain, right?
Thank you for your
And
work to
yeah,
get us there.
but thank you for the work you do too. I mean, it's amazing. You recently launched the disability What was the aha moment that made you realize the world needed this index?
Well, I had multiple aha moments. I would say one that was very impactful to me was I'm well known in the field by some people, and they know that I work a lot with corporations. And so I had this one organization that supports people that are deaf and blind with employment, and they were complaining, and I get it because it's so frustrating. They had just been to a big conference, and they were giving their business cards out to all these representatives from corporations, and they were like, "Oh yeah, 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 I definitely want to talk to you." And then they got back into their office, and these people would not return their emails or phone calls. And he was just very frustrated. And I said, they're afraid. They're afraid. That's why they're not doing it. And he was like, I know, but it's so frustrating. And then I, just out of curiosity, because I'm very curious, I said, well, by the way, how many people that are deafblind do y'all employ? And the answer really, really freaked me out because the answer was zero. And I thought, what
Mm.
the heck, people? My gosh, we're not doing it ourselves. If we won't even hire ourselves, why? And so there were other things that, like realizing that 500 CEOs with the World Economic Forum, they're also not going to be successful if our community can't come together and decide what success looks like. And
Mhm.
so, and there's so much infighting, and now it's been blown up so bad. But I also am very familiar with indexes where we look at a corporation or we look at governments or we look at these entities and we say, all right, we're going to decide what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. We're just going to take a look at it. And I think it's time for us to create a disability power integrity index. And then people are like, what? What's that? I was like, okay, too many words. But it's a disability mirror index. And the reason why is because it's time for the disability community to turn the mirror around and actually look at what we're doing, because we're not doing a good job. And many of us know it. People with disabilities, they do not want to work in the disability field because they know generally if they can even get a job, they're not going to be paid well. Their voice isn't really going to be heard. They're probably not going to make that big of a difference. We even see, people with disabilities going into these big corporations. It's like, yay, this big technology corporation, look, they hired this person with a disability. Go and change that company. Well, this is their employer too. And so I just think we have to get it together. The disability community, we need to be accessible. All of our websites, all of our meeting, all of our conferences, we need to be accessible. We need to be hiring people in the executive offices that have disabilities, and not only have disabilities, but are willing to talk about their lived experiences with disabilities. Our boards should not have only token people. It should actually, our boards should be made of the people we're serving. I mean, this is so logical to me. And so I decided to do it, and I had a lot of people still do telling me, "Oh, you can't do that." Oh, no, and I had corporations saying, "Oh, we'll do the index," and I'm like, "No, it's not for you. It's not for you. It's for us. It's for us." And so what I did, because I once again do believe this needs to be global conversations, I said that I was going to index 500 disability organizations all over the world, and I'm starting with 50. With the 50 billion strong, this small nonprofit is also in there. And by the way, billion strong's not going to look that great because there's so much we haven't done because of funding, but I don't care. What's good for me, what's good for you is good for me. We all need to do it. So billion strong is being indexed as well, and this is not something that I'm asking permission to do. I'm doing it. And so I have decided who the 50 are that I'm starting with. Once again, billion strong's one of them. And people were advising me, as I was getting advice along the way. I've had a lot of wonderful advisors. You've given me some advice too, Karen. One thing people were saying, and I was also grappling with this. I was thinking, okay, pick the largest disability organizations in the world. Well, guess what? All those pretty much live in the United States and the United Kingdom. Okay. Well, I was like, no, I actually want to take a global look. And so I did. And it's been very interesting coming up with the list of the people that I'm going to index first. And sadly, some of the biggest organizations in different regions, they no longer exist because of partially what just happened. We've lost a lot of groups that were doing disability, supporting people with disabilities in these other countries because of what happened here in the United States. Yeah. So that was sort of sad. And so then I reached out to all of the organizations that I am going to index, and I gave them a survey. And I asked them if they would consider filling out this survey. I have 38 pretty hard questions. I mean, questions that were really, saying, hey, is your executive team, do you hire people with disabilities? What is your percentage? Just asking some really hard questions, which, by the way, they don't have to answer. But at the same time, I'm still going to look at all public records, and I'm going to, based on the information that's out there, I'm going to tell us all how we're doing. Not as a punishment, not to embarrass anybody, but just to say, look, come on, we can do better. This is a good idea. There was a couple reasons why I decided to send a survey. And the reason why was because, once again, what has happened all over the world, but certainly led here in the United States with this DEI woke attacks that happened. And it's been really brutal what's happened. But as all of that was happening, I thought some of these organizations might not be talking about what they're doing because they don't want to be targets. And so it might be they actually are doing better than it looks like in public records, but they're not disclosing because it's dangerous to disclose in some cases. It's sad to say, but sadly true. And so I am proud to say that I have sent all of 50 of the organizations that I selected the survey. But I was really excited because I didn't know how they were going to respond, but a lot of them do know me and my work and my audience. And so I've just gotten such wonderful, gracious comments like, oh, thank you for including me. And I want to do it. And we want to show what we're doing. And it was just very exciting. And so that I'm really, really delighted with. And I'm looking forward to see the responses that they send back with the surveys. I'm indexing them no matter what. But it also is just so powerful because I don't see that we've really laid out carefully for disability organizations and maybe what the expectations of our community is. For example, I do expect you to employ the people with the disabilities that you're championing in your organization. And I also expect, and this is me, but I would like to expect that if something fabulous, for example, happens in the autism community to another organization, that the other organizations of autism support and celebrate what they're doing. But not just that, that all of the others celebrate it. We are so strong together, but not when we're so fragmented and disenfranchised like we are. And so when I was talking, yesterday with the amazing Ukrainian people, they were saying, well, what can we do? How can we do this? And I said, well, I just hope that we don't keep doing what we always do. I see rebuilding happening or big efforts being made in some Middle Eastern countries and others, spending just ridiculous amounts of money, and yet they still are not making them accessible and inclusive to all humans. And I'm also looking for a time when humans understand that disability is a very normal part of being a human. It's very
Right.
normal. Yes, and we know how to make everything accessible. And every single thing that we do should be accessible to all humans, no matter how that human decides to facilitate their humanness. We don't
Yes.
get to decide you're less than because you have autism or you're in a wheelchair or no. No more, no more. Design for
Agreed.
humans, and let's talk about it. So I say, let's get it together right, and then teach others. And then then when we say to these corporations that will not return our calls about deafblind people, it's like, wait a minute, let me tell you how amazing these people are. I can show you in action. Let us show you the examples of how amazing these people are, because they are. Society has already created so many barriers. They have no choice but to be problem solvers and, figure out how to get around stuff because we put so many barriers in the way. Anyway, so it's time to look.
So true.
I
Yeah.
wish it wasn't, but it is. It is
The
true.
bad thing, I mean, it's a wake-up call. It's a
Mhm.
wake-up call for the organization. I mean, people do need to look at themselves. We get a lot of volunteers that are on the spectrum, and I love it. I love it when they're like they get it, and they get it from
Yes.
the inside out. And they're there
And
because for a reason, and they want to be part of our team because it's about them. It's all about them.
I agree, which, I mean, why would it not be?
Well,
You're an
yeah,
autism organization. So, I mean, yeah. You know, when you say it out loud, we are all like, well,
yeah,
of course that's true.
oh,
But
yeah.
still, we've never done it. We all know this is true. And it's very sad when parents have children with disabilities, or an adult becomes a person with a disability themselves, because we're humans, and they realize how really bad it is out there. And I mean, when
Mhm.
we say it's bad, and anybody listening to this in the field, you know it's true. It's bad out there. It's really bad. We are being excluded in ways that are just chilling. And when we're a billion people strong, if we just hired ourselves, funded ourselves, supported us, what could happen?
Yeah, it's all about collaboration, not competition. And there is
I,
a very deeply planted seed of competition in the world, which needs to go
yes,
away.
it
Because
is.
we're all
It is.
human beings, we're all people. We all should honor and respect everybody for who they are and help empower people to be their personal best.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I will tell you that I was talking to an organization that I'm going to index. I was thinking whether or not I should say his name or not, but I was talking to the CEO of this organization, and it is an organization that has to do with intellectual disabilities. And so him and I were talking about that comment that, oh, are you saying the Down Syndrome Association should only hire a CEO with Down syndrome? We were talking about it, and he said, you know, Deborah, he said, when this position came available, and he's a very qualified CEO, they were lucky to get this man. This organization is not located, it's not based in the United States. But he said that when he got the job, he started hearing comments like that. And he said, you know, could we make, and they're working on it right now to see how they could do it, because you don't want this, what I'm about to say, to be tokenism. And so he said, could
Right.
we make a co-CEO? And the CEO would be a person, in his case, with intellectual disabilities. But how do you make the position a position that doesn't just become a tokenism position? It's like, oh, aren't you cute, including that, you know? And so they're really batting around. How could they do that so that there could be even more meaningful representation in the executive offices? And when I
Mhm.
heard it, it just made me, I got really excited, because I thought, right, that's what we should be talking about, you know? But the blind organizations consistently hire people that aren't blind. We just saw it happen with one of the biggest blind organizations in the world, the RNIB, the Royal National Institute of the Blind in the United Kingdom. This CEO they hired is terrific and amazing, but this person does not have a vision impairment, is not blind. And when they asked him on BBC, how's that going to work? He said, well, I do have a blind buddy. And I'm sure he didn't mean it
Yes.
like that. I'm sure he didn't mean it like that. That just was, but having life experiences, and once again, I know there were very, very qualified individuals that are blind and are qualified BCEOs that applied. Many of them were not even interviewed. And I was like, that's very interesting, because I saw it. I saw it. I heard because we all talk. So,
Right.
and no offense to the current CEO, you know, they're going to do a fabulous job, blah, 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 but it's just continuously like this. We continue to leave ourselves out in the disability field. We
This is
do.
inclusion. It's an area where inclusion is very, very important. And I notice with our volunteers now, like we're getting so many, they're coming out of the woodwork. We buddy them up with other people that are working on the same projects. Like the video team, you know, they work together, and then they support each other. And whether they have autism or they don't have autism, or if they're wherever they are in their life, if they have each other to work on, or wherever they're located, you know, because we work all across the countries, you know, so it's time zones, and you know yeah, it's
No time zones. Time zones are tough. The
really
Australian time zone's the roughest for me.
time zones. Yeah,
Australia and New Zealand kill me.
I know. We did the World Autism Summit. And I really went autistic on that. I had 86 different speakers, and they're from all over the place. And boy, the time zones were
Wow.
just nuts. I did all the
Yes,
interviews,
yes, yes.
but boy, was it, and I had to get up in the middle of the night, and
Yeah, me too.
just to have to do what you got to do. And it was fun. But
No,
yeah, that works
it's
well.
important though, because there is progress being made. I was on another show this morning and I was talking to the lady and I could tell she was very discouraged. She was very discouraged and she just was talking about all the stuff that's getting blown up. And but you can get so discouraged that you just depress everybody. So there's actually some positive things happening too. There is positive force happening with the negative stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
Some of the things that are happening, for example, Americans aren't going to like to hear because I was talking to somebody else and they were saying, what's happening, Deborah, as the Americans pulled US aid and they, pulled all these different programs. They're now Chinese representative are coming in and saying, we'll help fund it. And so he's like, I thought you Americans didn't want the China. Okay, first place, China has 1,500,000,000 people. I mean, I applaud. I don't want anybody to win over anybody else. We're all humans and we're all part of the planet. And and I hope that's true, what I'm hearing, that the Chinese people are coming in and picking up some of the slack from what's happening with the United States. But at the same time, I don't think just one country should be, I think everybody should be pitching in and helping. And it shouldn't just be about one country, which it feels like sometimes it is often about one country. And I knew
Mhm.
that when I started being invited to speak globally, I knew why people were inviting me. They were inviting me. I knew they liked my voice, but also they were partially inviting me because I was an American. And so I would go to these countries and I would say, okay, learn from the United States, learn what we did right and what we did wrong, because we've done a bunch wrong. So learn from us. Do not take or let anybody tell you, oh, take what we did in the US and just put it here, because it never, ever, ever works. It has got to happen locally. There's a place locally, there's a place nationally, there's a place globally. But yeah, that's why I was so insistent that I would not just index the largest of the disability organizations. I'm going to index the largest, the most influential in all of the regions. But it's sad that with that, because I have people I'm indexing that are making consistently $35 million a year, and then others trying to do exact same things that are making less than 100,000 or didn't even survive what's just happened to us. So we should care about that as well. We should care that there are not strong regional funded disability organizations all over the world. We should care about that as a community. This is another way that we can start to see it. And people are like, yeah, but you're just going to say mean things about people. And I was like, okay, I hope people aren't looking at it like that, because it's not that. It is a challenge for us all to be better. And so you can look at it like that, but I hope people don't, because we all know these things are true. Some of us know more than others, and it's not good. It's not good. But I think if we could turn it around and we all could start better supporting each other, we ourselves walked the walk, talked the talk, we ourselves were accessible. Do you know a dirty little secret, Karen, that happens? Others know this too, but not a lot. Deaf speakers, deaf speakers are often not invited to participate. Even though you have deaf speakers that have autism, you have deaf speakers, right? You have some really talented, but often the conference and stuff, they don't want to, it's too much, it's too expensive to get the right, and it's just, we are so bad about excluding ourselves. We are so bad about it.
Oh, we're going to get better.
We are, and also people are starting to challenge. I remember we went through a period of time that every time, it's been such an interesting time to be alive. But I remember there was part of the Me Too movement. Okay, women were, and not just women, men were doing it too, but they would be calling out conferences and workshops and seminars where it was just only men. They're like, hello. wait. Well, now we are calling each other out. Like the other day when I was talking about this Ukraine conference, somebody nicely came back and said, well, I hope people with disabilities that are actually in Ukraine are included. And I said, well, actually they are. There are quite a few. This is one of the workshops. But yes, actually, there are a lot of people from Ukraine that with lived experiences with disabilities that were included, but it's a good question to ask. It's a good question to ask. I think we need to be more sensitive about that. But once again, this is helping the entire community and industry that we have built really take a look at ourselves. You know, some people call us the disability industrial complex, like they'll say with the military industrial complex. But you know, it's true, Karen. You know, it is. You know, there's some groups, they get the money over and over and over and over again. They get so much money and they don't include us. They don't hire us. We know it's all true. We know it's true. Also, the funders need to know it. And I will also, at some point, I'm going to index the funders that are funding us because only because well, also you have an obligation to our community. So I don't care. Oh, you're blah, blah. I don't care who you are. You also have a job to include us. I'm tired of it, Karen. I am too old and I'm just tired of it. So and I'm not doing it to be mean, but I am doing it so that we all can get on the same page. Because
Mm.
why wouldn't we be doing this?
Sure, sure.
And I think it allows us to collaborate more, knowing who is doing what. We don't even
Mm.
know each other. People don't even know each other in this community. So, and then I see also, Karen, something that, and I get it, but it always hurts my heart a little bit. I see individuals with lived experiences with disabilities that start having success, speaking at corporations and stuff. And it's just all about them. They just totally forget that there's a billion people behind you. Please don't make it just about you. Please, can we start showing more leadership other than we are? I
Yeah,
see younger
you're
people
right.
with disabilities, just it's all about them and all of their and so I also see some continued bad habits. It's not just young people, it's people of all ages. But I think our community, you know, we also need to grow up a little bit and say, you know what? No, 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 no. I want you to hire people with disabilities. And the numbers and the
Mhm.
salaries, it's incredible. I saw a job of, and I won't be mean and say it, but a National Organization on Disability in the United States. So it's an OPD organization, people with disabilities, paying $500,000 to the CEO plus benefits. Okay, the CEO doesn't have a disability. Okay, what? And so I don't know. I see a lot of money being wasted. I see a lot of money being
Sure,
wasted.
sure, for sure. For
Yep. And I
sure.
see a lot of funders being lazy and just want to go back to the same thing they always did because that's the way we did it. That's fine. But I
Yeah.
think there is an opportunity for new funders to come in and look at this and say, what are we doing? And why are we doing it this way? This does not make sense.
Yeah,
So,
it's
and
so
we should
true.
be proud of however we're made. You know, I'm not broken because I'm neurodiverse. I might talk too much, but I'm not broken. My brain just works differently.
Yeah, and I don't talk enough, so I get it.
Well,
I'm sitting in a meeting and I don't want to jump in because I'm afraid I'm going to overstep somebody or I'm going to interrupt. Because I mean, we had so many conversations as kids in my house. Dad and mom saying, "Don't interrupt now." So you had to always zip it.
one more person says one thing, and then I start laughing. I get in trouble. It's like, because it's like, as soon as you challenge me, my brain is going to say, what? So I start laughing. Anyway, I used to get in trouble in school.
You were the kid in the hallway.
I just was always getting notes sent home to my parents that I was
Oh,
disruptive in class. And if I if I could put on my thinking cap instead of talking all the time, but right, I just always got in trouble with my parents because I got little notes written about how disruptive I could be. But all my siblings are
my
neurodiverse too,
son.
so
How many siblings do you have?
I grew up with four others, but I have more than that. We have a big family.
I had six kids in 9 years, so I I understand big families.
Yeah, yeah. They're
Yeah, a
fun.
lot of neurodiversity there. Huh.
Right. I remember one time I was speaking and I met this gentleman and I was training on accessibility at the time and I met this gentleman in the hallway. He was one of the students. And of course I'm dealing with adults, so they're all professionals and stuff. And he came over to me and he said quietly on break, he's like, I have three kids with autism. And he said it sort of somberly. And I said, oh my God, can I please come to dinner? Your dinner must be so interesting. And he started laughing. He's like, it is. It is. You wouldn't believe how interesting our dinners are. We have such interesting conversations. And so I think he didn't usually get responses like that. It was more of what I was getting when people learned my daughter had Down syndrome. Oh, it's like, stop. I just had a perfect baby girl. Stop it. Stop
Yes,
deciding who she's going to be. Leave me
it's
alone.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's so many humorous and funny and happy moments growing up. Like in the chicken soup book, there's a story
Yes.
called "Welcome to Holland," and I know you're familiar with that. But
Yes.
it's so powerful because the lady got all dressed up to go to Italy and she ended up in Holland. Learned a different way to look at life, a different
I
way to embrace what's going on and try to find what's good about it. Try to just work with it. But that's how I feel. I'm the
I agree.
proverbial Pollyanna.
I have a show that I do. It's called Access Chat, and I know you're going to be on it. My co-host Neil says that I am obnoxiously optimistic. I said, well, life has beat some of that out of me, but I do always look for, I am really obnoxious about it because it's like, well, this horrible thing happened. I was like, oh, but that's an opportunity for us. Yeah, it's like, nope, that's obnoxious. Okay.
So why is it so important? And you probably answered this, but for the disability community to challenge itself to be more inclusive rather than just waiting for institutions to fix things.
Right. And we have already talked about that a little bit, but
Well
just
done.
think if we were the best practices. Just think if we were the innovators. Just think if I mean, because all these communities and vendors have popped up to teach everybody how to do it, how to include us.
Mhm.
We should include us and then let
Yes,
our best practices, stand for themselves. Let our
right.
innovation stand for themselves. I mean,
Be a
don't
role
tell me
model.
it can't be done. We know it can be done. We see it. I used the example of RNIB, which is once again a wonderful organization. But then let's look at another organization, Leonard Cheshire, who is also in the United Kingdom. And everybody on their executive team have a disability. The numbers and the accessibility efforts, and it's just exciting to what we're seeing. But I think I also have expectations of these organizations that when you are sending out a procurement, maybe you want to redo your website, that you're showing preferential treatment to our community and the vendors in our community. You're very proud to be giving the work that needs to be done to the vendors of our community.
Yeah.
So I just think it challenges us to really be better. And once again, I think that we got to really take a look at ourselves because we're pointing the finger awful lot at everybody else. And I really do think it's time for us to, have expectations that
When you point
we are inclusive.
when you point the finger to somebody else, you have how many pointing back to you, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so the next question, I know you have a timeline, but with AI, I mean, I love AI, I really do, and I know that there's a lot of opinions about AI, but
People
that's
are
fine.
scared of them. People are
Yeah,
scared of AI. And I am too. I am too. So
to a certain degree, yeah. But I
I
can have a clone, so kind of
know.
cool. When you look at the AI boom, does it leave you feeling more optimistic or worried for autistic individuals?
I think right now, like a lot of time, I've lived long enough to see the birth of the internet. I've seen the birth of social media. And now I'm seeing the birth of AI. And I think it's very messy and confusing and ridiculous. I think that the amount of money that we're wasting, and it's just really interesting to watch what's happening, the race. I think it has the potential to hurt people with autism and a lot of other people if we don't pay attention, because what's happening to AI is being created by humans, and we are consciously and unconsciously coding bias right into those and into AI. And so AI can only learn, at least right now, what we're teaching them, what we're programming them. I know that AI can learn and it can, surmise, but I am worried about society's conscious and unconscious behavior being put right into AI. There's a lot of other people that are speaking up to saying we can't do this, let's be careful. But I also think that in the long run, I think AI provide, because once again, it's here. You
Yeah.
cannot put it back in the bottle. You cannot. You just
Yeah.
cannot.
No.
So
Yeah.
it's here. So I think instead of though thinking it's going to replace us all, I think the opportunity is
Oh,
using AI as a tool. AI
right.
is a tool. And so and there's some wonderful things we've learned with AI. We have so much data that can be computed so quickly now, right? So and I was listening to Diary of the CEO, which I like his work, and he was talking about AI and how it's unfolding. And there was some people on his show that had said a couple of years ago that within 2 years, 90% of all jobs were going to be gone. Well, that 2 year has come and passed. And actually, we have to have the will as society to make those changes happen. And now they're saying things like the governments actually need to legislate so you can't just get rid of every one of your employees. So there's a lot of things that are happening and unfolding that have are promising. At the same time, we're going to be able to learn so much about different diagnosis. And for example, I mentioned my daughter has Down syndrome. We don't know why children are born with Down syndrome. We do not know why. Well, I think we have a better chance dealing with AI as we get all the data together to where we can start figuring things out. What AI has done for rare diseases is amazing and beautiful. Social
Well, it
media
is.
helped with that as well. But I think that it has the ability. Oh, and I know that I didn't finish my little story here, in that they were talking about right now, some of the brightest in the world, our IQ, say that I don't even know what my IQ is, but I have very high emotional IQ, I think. But they said, so say you're dealing with somebody like 150 IQ or 100 or 80, there is an advantage people have sometimes with a very high IQ over people that don't. We know that there's an advantage. But now you put AI in there, and it's like, yeah, you have an IQ of 150, but with AI, that gives you another 4,000. So now you got 4,150. And that's as much of some way as an advantage of, say, somebody that has 4,100, right? So the numbers, it's sort of pushing us a little closer, because I think, people were saying, oh, AI is going to replace artists. No, it's not. This is
Mhm.
ridiculous. AI can learn to do art, but the human mind, I think AI is going to challenge us to dig in and do things that we can't even imagine,
Real.
which is
Yes.
exciting. Are there bad players? Absolutely. I hear the numbers of the robots and blah, blah, blah. Well, I can't do anything about that. And so in the meantime, I'm just going to focus on what I can do. And I can't think that AI is very powerful tools. We need to be AI equity, AI, AI for good, AI
Hmm.
for inclusion, AI for humans.
Yeah. If you put garbage in, you get garbage out. So a lot of
Yeah.
times it's what you're looking for. Like if you're trying to write an article and you want to save some time, you're trying to do planning, that's one thing. Or I talked to somebody today who does social stories. And that's really, really helpful. If you're at the airport and your kid doesn't want to get on the plane, you can say, write me here really quickly, write me a social story so I can get him on the plane. He was worried about, the airplane blowing up and having to parachute out is why he didn't want to go
Okay.
on the plane.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, there's lots of good applications
There
for
is.
AI, which I really like.
Yeah, I think another thing that gives me a little bit of comfort, maybe others know this, but this distinction made a difference when I thought about it. We talk about AI like it's one thing. It's not.
No.
AI is, there are so many different AIs. There's Gemini, there's Claude, there's ChatGPT, there's, I could go on and on.
Complexity.
Right, right. And the good news, Deep Think, is another one. But Grok, but the good news is that they're all been programmed, right? So they're different flavors and they're all now, they can learn from each other. So I think that will help us. If there was only one I would be really worried. Who coded
Oh, yeah.
it? What does it mean? Who contributed? And also, all of us right now that are using the AI like crazy, I use it so much that I keep being told with Claude, for example, Claude's like, all right, you've been doing this 5 hours straight. You now have to take a break or you have to upgrade. And so I think right now we are all getting to learn with it too. And I think it'll look very different, as
Yeah.
it unfolds. But that's comforting to me that there's not just one AI.
Oh, yeah. I
There's
know. I know. I
a
know.
lot of different AIs.
I
And
work with
and that's more hopeful because that gives us a better chance,
on
maybe.
perspective. Yeah. So,
I
yeah, if you're
love
talking
that.
to your AI, it's like it gets to know you. Like I have a clone. I'm sure everybody does. It's got your
I know.
personality. It's got your book. It's got
I have
everything in
nothing.
there. So it really makes it a lot easier for this AI, program that I'm using for them to understand me and help write to what I'm focused on and interested in. My partner is like very analytical and clinical, and I'm more heart and emotion and touchy feely. So I mean, I think you put that information into one, and you get touchy feely, and you put the other one, and it's very very clinical and very direct.
Yeah, I like what I'm realizing is, and I'm a heavy user of it, but certain AI is better at things than other AI. For example, I just am a big fan of Claude. I love Claude. And I pay for Claude and I pay for ChatGPT. But I found that Claude, just in my own experience, but Claude helped me as I was working on my framework for the disability mirror, and it was so powerful. And, the commands. But ChatGPT is much better at writing emails and writing more in my voice because so I'm
Mm-hmm.
finding, and Gemini's, I love Gemini too. So it's interesting because different ones bring you different things. And then
Yeah.
I love taking the work, for example, what Claude and I did, I'll take it and I'll put it in others. And I'm like, so what do you think about this? And I love how they start rating each other. And it's like, oh, that I don't miss as much stuff when I do that. It can be confusing.
That's
You don't
good.
want to do it into 18 AI, but I find that using the different ones and
Oh,
complementing them make it interesting too.
yeah. Four is good enough.
My ADHD will be like, "Ooh, let's do 18." No, Deborah, stop it. So,
Yes, 8 hours pass. I know.
right. And then you make yourself sick because you push yourself so hard working, but that's also okay. That's part of being neurodiverse too. It's a gift
I'm
and a
like the more I
curse.
want when it's exciting. Yeah, gift and a curse. I get more excited. The more I do, the more I want to do, and
I know,
it's a
I know.
mess.
But then I'll make myself sick. So it's like, okay, stop. Especially because right now my work is not funded. And I'm cool with that. I don't care. I actually have a lot of funders talking to me now for next year, but I'm going to put out the first disability mirror completely unfunded deliberately. Because I also had, people talking to me and it's like, wait a minute, are you trying to influence me not to? No, I know what I want to achieve. And the first one will not be, I'm not giving it ratings. I'm not going to say you're a 3, I'm not going to do that. It really is more informational. And then we will see where the world wants to take the next version of this. But the next version will be, there'll be numbers associated with it and a score. And I'm also hoping that smaller organizations will do it themselves because
Yeah,
I haven't done it yet, but I am going to make the entire framework of what I'm doing, all the survey questions will be public information. It will all
that's
be
good.
there and people can use it however they want. And I'm hoping that some smaller disability organizations will do it themselves and proudly say, hey, this is what we're doing. It'll give them a better way to be heard and seen too. I
Yep.
also say one more thing too, because people keep asking me, okay, but you can't just say that they're terrible and then they don't even have any way to get better. So what are you going to do for that, Deborah? Are you going to have training courses? Are you going to have this cannot be about one organization, okay? There are so many training courses available all over the world. There's so much content. So we don't need Billion Strong to be that for everybody. Instead, we want to put the resources out there or point to where other people have resources, because that's a mistake I think sometimes we make, in that I'm going to decide and then you have to come to me for everything. No, no, you don't. You actually, you can go to AI and learn about accessibility. You can go to AI and learn why your board needs to be made up a certain way. There are so many different groups. Y'all offer training. So, a place where we can all start pointing to all of the information that's already out there. I think it would be a mistake for me to say, oh, don't worry, I'm going to judge you, and then I'm also going to tell you how. No, we're not going to do it like that.
I get it. I get it. I'm very myopic in your focus. It's got to be collaborative.
Right. I agree. I agree. It's got to be very collaborative. That's why I appreciate the work you've doing and why you and I have stayed in touch for all these years, because it just is to the point where we can't keep hoping this is going to change.
No, we got to change it.
We got,
You're right. You're absolutely right.
yeah.
So, to wrap things up, if you could put one message on a billboard for the entire global autism community to see today, what would that be?
Well, I think it would be, I could see the sign in that there's a disability mirror and we're looking into it. Are we included or are we excluded? Because I think, the autism community, one thing I love about the autism community is that they're very direct and they're telling people what they think. And I
Oh, yeah.
appreciate that. I know that's not always appreciated, but I appreciate the authenticity and the just getting to the point. And so I would say to anyone with autism, is the autism organizations that you support or you believe are, trying to take care of you, are they including you? Are they including others with autism? Are they walking the walk? And if they're not, I think you should not support those organizations anymore. I think we have so much more of a vote than we realize in a voice. And I know the corporations are fascinated about what I'm doing because they're like, oh, oh, you're going to fix it? It's like, yes, we are going to fix this. We're going to fix this. And by the way, we still want you supporting us, corporations. We still want you including us. But the way it's been happening so far, it hasn't really been very beneficial to our community. There's been little spikes that have been great, but and we all know this, but sadly, we were barely holding on. We were trying to, we weren't moving forward. We were just trying not to go backwards. And then, of course, now that the DEI woke stuff, okay, we've gone backwards. But I think, once again, I wouldn't have done it this way, but oh well, we
Yeah.
are doing it this way. But I think it's a powerful opportunity for us to look in the mirror and include ourselves, and also expect the organizations that are supposed to support us to actually be doing that and asking them the hard questions. We're asking the corporations the hard questions. Why aren't we asking ourselves the hard questions?
And it's right on point. Very good. Do you have any other goodies you want to share with us?
No, but I'm really grateful for what you've done and all the work you've done. And I'm glad that, I get to also show my audience who you are. Because I know what you've been doing, Karen. I've been watching it, right? And I try so hard to use my platform to show what others are doing, because this isn't about any one person. No, this is about all of us coming together and making a difference. So really changing
Great.
the dynamics.
Well, I'm so glad that we've stayed connected all this time. My goodness, since 1996, before Autism Today.
Yes.
And yes, when we're still going after that ocean, like the world and all people,
I
we're
know.
still going there.
Yeah.
And, if it's this lifetime or next lifetime or the one after, we're going to get there.
And we got to let others participate too. And I see often, people with disabilities starting to get the stage and going, okay, I got this, y'all. It's like, nope, 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 nope. You actually have to make room for people behind you too. Yeah, that's important.
That's,
I
that's,
can notice the leaders that are doing that and the leaders that aren't, because it's
yes,
very obvious. So if I can notice it, other people are noticing it. So yeah,
that's
but
really
I'm
good.
hopeful. I'm hopeful.
I am too. And I'm having fun. And
Right.
that's a real important thing, for everybody. Like I
I agree.
love the volunteers we have and the way that they're just coming on board and they're getting excited and it doesn't matter what is going on with them, like if they're autistic or if they're blind or if they can't, at whatever level we can work together, it's great. They come with their heart. So that's what I love. But I love what you're doing. I think it's great. And looking in the mirror, yes, it's a wonderful thing.
It is. It is. It is. And I thought, oh, you can't say looking in the mirror because some people are blind. And then I thought, yes,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can, Deborah. Everybody knows what we mean by disability mirror, you know. So yes, yes. So,
Yes.
well, thank you. Thank you, Karen. I really appreciate all you are doing. And um, I think it's very important for the voices to be heard. And as it
Yes.
says, a constellation of voices, stories, and hope. It says that
Yeah.
right on the screen. And that's what it's about.
Mhm.
Hope takes us a long ways.
And that was done by a volunteer.
Oh, fun. I love it. I love it. Right, right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And we will catch up on the next podcast.
All right, cool. Thank you,
Okay.
Karen.
Thank you,
Bye
Deborah.
bye.